is into vermiculture. When I say vermiculture, I mean turning worms into wealth. Let's hear it from Koda.
Can we call red worms or what?
They're actually worms. Effectively, they're worms. Red worms, some call them red wigglers. But yeah, they're basically just red worms.
All right. So how do you go about the process of keeping the worms?
Keeping red worms is actually quite simple. It's basically a waste management sort of situation. Most farmers lose a lot of material off their farms. So it's a post-harvest loss management system. What we do is we get cattle manure, put them in the bins that you're seeing. Yeah, various bins, dishes, whatever containers you can get. They just have to drain Raganaka Pasi.
Okay.
And then what we do is we put them in there, and then we put a small consignment of worms, the red wigglers, into it. They then process, or as they consume the cattle manure,
yes,
they produce this black stuff that we're seeing here, which is vermicompost.
Okay.
That's just one of the products that you see from there. Then the vermicompost is a very good organic fertilizer. It's a rich, balanced organic fertilizer which you can use in your vegetables. I know Total Farm Solutions is using it in their greenhouses for trench filling, for tomato production in their greenhouses, and they're getting good results from there as well. So yeah, that's basically the process. You just have to keep it moist, but it's basically just putting your manure in a bin and then adding worms to it. The worms consume the manure that you've placed in, and then you produce two byproducts. The first product is the vermicompost, the compost that comes out of it.
Yes.
Then the second product is the actual worms, which we are now breeding, raising the population so that we feed our ducks.
When you say breeding, you mean you are breeding worms? Like,
yes, we're actually breeding worms, running through the process of breeding worms. We're just creating an environment that is conducive for their breeding. When they breed, they multiply, obviously. When they multiply, we then take the excessive population of worms that we get as a protein source for our ducks. We are primarily a duck farm. We primarily do ducks in terms of livestock production. We're very passionate about birds. So we've since realized if we have more worms, that supplements the duck feed and it lowers our cost of production.
All right. So is it that the worms they are good for the ducks, or maybe there is something they gain from the worms?
Yeah, it's basically protein. It's protein for anyone into farming, for anyone into bodybuilding. You realize that your protein source is the most expensive and the most difficult target to hit.
Right.
So we've since realized that this is a cheap and available protein source for the ducks.
Yes.
That is the first thing. So you can either feed them fresh, or you can dry them into a powder and then mix with your maize bran, kind of makreshi or something, and then you just feed, and then you feed them onto your ducks. It balances out the meal a bit. Or one other thing that also helps, even if you're doing free range chickens like my road run,
yes,
you can just take the whole lot with manure with the worms in it, just place them danga. There's a lot of scratching around that chickens do.
Yes.
That triggers that hunter instinct.
Yes.
It then becomes a sort of a natural hunting instinct for your birds. It also helps to just keep them within their natural behavior. It might even help manage cannibalism in your birds.
Okay.
Because of that hunter instinct.
Yes.
Yeah, it helps them.
All right.
So those are the benefits.
There is other thing that I want to know. Is there a specific period that you say from this stage we put these worms, like they grow this? Is there any stage that you can say you keep them?
What we've picked up is that from the time you see eggs, it takes about 21 days for the eggs to hatch.
Oh, they hatch eggs?
Yeah, they've got eggs. I'm sure if we take a closer look, or if we go to the breeding bins, you'll see the eggs that are there. Okay. Unfortunately, in this one, there are no eggs because it's almost ready. So worms have been harvested already. But so from hatching to eggs, from eggs being laid to hatching, it takes about 21 days. Each egg will give you about 3 or maybe 4 worms, and then after that, it takes about between 4 and 12 weeks, depending on the weather,
All right.
to get a worm that is sizable enough to feed your ducks.
Oh, so it's not that you just feed them, even the little one. There is a specific size that you say this one is now good
Yeah,
for them to.
for us it would be good to feed worms that are of breeding age,
All right.
so that the ones that are left continue breeding. It's just for sustainability. It's not really about what size. Even the small worms, the ducks will still eat.
Okay.
But we prefer to feed larger worms that are fully grown. They would have produced eggs, and it just helps our continuity.
So besides the cow dung, you call it the cow dung, right?
Yeah.
Besides the cow dung, is there any food that you feed the worms, or is just the?
We are doing it with cattle manure because we've got cattle, and cattle manure is in excess supply. There's a farmer also leases pasture from us, and we collect.
Okay.
So we've formulated this with cattle manure because it is easy to get for us. But there are options. We've done it with goat droppings before. We've done a few bins with chicken manure as well. And then kitchen waste, there's some bins that were done with chicken waste, like sadza, fruit leftovers, like your tomatoes on the farm, pumpkins on the farm, mananga chayo chayo, mananga mapudzi, anything that is biodegradable, these things will eat. We also cover these bins with card boxes, and you find my card boxes and so they'll also consume even the cardboard boxes that we lay over the bins. But in the interest of making a pure product that we can also sell, we've decided to use one growing media for these things, which is just cattle manure, so that we know what we are then selling as vermicompost. That is why we are primarily just focusing on cattle manure. The other materials we've stopped using because it then distorts consistency when it comes to the product that we're then selling. Because we also sell vermicompost as a manure.
All right.
So our vermicompost is based off of cattle manure. If we then add anything else, like if we add goat manure, we'll have to then also make sure we disclose to our clients that this is vermicompost based off of goat manure, this is based off cattle manure, this is based off chicken manure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So comparing Vermi Manure with cow dung manure, the one without being processed, which one can you say this one it acts more than a fertilizer? Which one?
I think both have their merits,
Yes.
but you'd find that the nicest thing about vermicompost is that it doesn't have that burn that you'd find with cattle manure, because it has already gone through a secondary process.
All right.
Most people would feed direct cattle manure onto their crops and then have some sort of salt injury onto their
That's true.
onto their crop. You don't get that with vermicompost. Number one. Number two is the balance.
Yes.
There's always balance when it comes to vermi because it is then becoming even product after that.
That's true.
Then the third thing is weeds. When you put cattle manure directly into a field,
Yes.
it comes with weed seeds.
Oh.
Our process makes sure there are no weeds growing in here. Because anything that tries to germinate in here, the worms will eat it.
All right.
So all this that you're seeing that's trying to germinate, it'll be eaten by the worms, such that when a farmer uses this particular product, there are no weeds that will be transferred onto the field.
All right.
That is one other major advantage of this.
All right. Plus, the other thing that I've seen, this one, they look like they are clean more than the cow dung, because if you put the cow dung directly, you find maybe even the insects. You find even the insect that will eat the maize directly.
Exactly.
So that's the other thing that So you mean these worms, they can also eat insects here?
Not necessarily insects. They will grow with insects if they're there.
All right.
But because of there's no stench, there's no stink, nothing. It's very clean.
I've seen it.
It's actually quite clean.
That's true.
Did I just see eggs? Yeah. It's actually quite clean. So you'd find that because there's no...
the eggs?
Yeah, that's the one.
Wow.
This one just hatched.
All right.
One just hatched. One just hatched. I can't find a very clean one. One that hasn't quite hatched is yet. So I was saying, you'd find that it's clean.
That's true.
This place doesn't even smell like there's cattle manure going on here.
It's just clean.
So there's no other insect activity. We sometimes find grubs within this,
All right.
The white grub is what people would call fimbiri. I don't know if you know it. It's a whitish larva. Thick,
Oh, yeah.
plump white with an orange head.
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah, we sometimes find those in there, but we just pick them out and again feed our ducks.
Oh,
They'll
so
still eat.
what makes you to start this farming?
Farming for me, I think, is a passion. By the time I got to graduate, I'm a sawmiller by profession.
All right.
By the time I got to graduate, I had made a decision to come back to the farm. I was trained in Mutare,
Right.
which is now Zimbabwe College of Forestry. It was FITC then. And by the time I got to graduate, I had made a decision. I want to go back to the farm, and I started doing chickens.
Right.
So I've been doing broilers since 2009, on and off for various reasons. But yeah, I've been on the farm since then. So that is what drives my desire to be here. It's just passion.
All right.
And then after that, I then realized there's so many opportunities to make money on a farm. Besides just making money, 90% of the people that I talk to want to retire on a farm.
All right.
So I then decided I'll just leave the retirement first and then figure out how to make sure the retirement pays me.
That's true.
So yeah, effectively I'm leaving the retirement now.
Yes.
And then growing into it so that by the time I decide to retire,
Yeah.
I would have grown a nice big cake
That's
for my kids as well.
That's true.
So yeah, those are my motivations behind farming.
Okay. So beside the Vermi Manure, do you sell the worms?
We actually sell worms, yes. We've got people who buy worms for fishing. Fishing worms. If you go along Lomagundi Road, if you're coming from Harare on your way down to Kariba, you find a lot of people who actually sell worms, and we breed for those guys.
Okay.
They buy by the can, and we breed for them.
Also, you sell them in the cans.
Yeah,
How much
they're
does
sold
it
in
cost,
a
like
can.
a can? How much does it cost?
A can is between $5 and $10.
Okay.
So it just depends on who's buying and why they're buying. But yeah, between $5 and $10.
So
per
how
can.
many worms did you start with? Like, can you say I started with a bucket with manure, or how did you start it?
Unfortunately, the actual hopper that we started with is not here anymore.
Okay.
But it was about this size.
All
And
right.
then we just allowed them to breed, but it wasn't full. It was basically about 3 or 4 cans that we started with, and then they just multiplied from there, and then we just allowed them to multiply.
All right.
Now we've got a breeding system that's in the blue dishes that are there. That's all a breeding system. What happens there is they just allow eggs to hatch, and then the moment the eggs hatch, they remove whatever is hatched and then leave the next lot.
Okay.
It's just a hatching station. So
All right.
that's a multiplication
So
station.
is
that
there
there.
any specific temperature? Then you say the worms, they need this specific temperature. They didn't need heat. They didn't need what? Is there anything?
It's not really a specific temperature, but we've learned that they do well in summer. So I think the hotter it gets,
Yes.
the more productive they get. I think it's that rate of reaction equation where high temperatures and enough moisture will create a high rate of reaction.
Oh.
They grow faster
All right.
during the hot months of the year, and then they slow down during the winter. So if I was to give anyone advice for consistent production in terms of worms, I would say build a greenhouse and do them in a greenhouse. That sort of regulates your temperature. You get a bit more over the season. We are in a sort of a hot area.
That's right.
Fortunately for us, the winters are not very cold, so we usually just cover with black sheeting overnight, and then try to just help with the temperatures. But it actually slows down during
What about
the
in
winter
terms
months.
of water? Do you put water here, or you just use the water that comes with the dung manure?
Nah, they actually watered.
Oh, you water them?
We are. Unfortunately, she's not here anymore. The lady who looks after this project is just gone home for lunch.
Okay.
But she makes sure she manages the moisture levels. So yeah, that's.
ndarama muchiti masini mashoma mudhara. What breeds do you have here for the ducks?
So we're doing 2 breeds.
Okay.
Zema ducks. We've got this particular one, the most common breed, which are Muscovy ducks.
Alright.
You can identify them by having a mask on their faces. As you can see, they've that red thing going on. They're the most common ducks that you'd find anyway. And then in the background, as you can see, we've also got Peking ducks, which are just starting out. That's just breeding stock. We've got about 12 of those.
Alright.
But they're quite interesting. I'm sure we'll talk about them. But yeah, we've just got 2 breeds. And then we've also got free-range chickens. Just for our own consumption. They're just also roaming around. It's not a serious project as yet.
Alright.
It will grow at some point. But yeah, that's...
What's the name of the chickens?
They're just ordinary free-range chickens. Marodran.
Alright.
Yeah, it's just a mixture. It's a mixture of my black australorp, my kuroila, my cuckoo. We've got a bit of Bochveld and a bit of Sasso as well. So it's just
these are the ones
collection.
that you are feeding the red worms.
Yes. So we're feeding these. This whole collection is what we're feeding our red wigglers as a protein source. So as a carbohydrate source, we've got chibage and wheat. So we've got maize and wheat as a protein, as a carbohydrate source. And then we add red wigglers as a protein source for them. And then for everything else, we try to make sure they pick up my greens. We've got tomatoes from our tomato field, my rejects, rotting tomatoes. We also just chuck them in, and it just helps out to just balance their diet. They just require a balanced diet like people.
So in terms of eggs, I'm seeing you are keeping them. Is there any issue about in terms of eggs, about the duck eggs and the chicken eggs?
The chickens that we've got at the moment are not breeding as yet, but we're going to separate them. But if you've got limited space and you're thinking of doing ducks and chickens together,
yes,
you just elevate your platforms. Chickens prefer to lay their eggs on an elevated platform. And then ducks prefer to lay their eggs right on the ground. So you'd find that naturally you'll have more of your chicken eggs on your upper levels, and then you have your duck eggs at the lower levels. They're actually different. You can just pick them up and separate them.
Also, they are totally different.
They're different. Duck eggs are actually quite big. They're much bigger than chicken eggs. Yeah, you get a bit more weight of egg.
But is it possible to make a duck hatch a chicken egg?
Yes, it's very possible. How I started doing ducks was because of chickens. So I bought a collection of day-old Bochveld chickens, and then they grew and matured to point of lay. What then happened, I had a problem with them because they were not brooding. I wanted them to brood naturally. So, and then someone suggested to me that you could just get ducks. They have a 90% hatch rate, and then have them hatch your eggs.
Okay.
But in due time, we actually ended up having more ducks than chickens, because the ducks were more resistant to disease, better hatch rates, and better attitude around feed and everything. And that is how I ended up doing ducks. I actually started doing ducks by accident. It was just someone suggesting, get ducks to hatch your chicken eggs. And then I ended up, and then I just grew to love them and realized that's actually a better project than doing my roadrunner purely. And so now we're doing them
why
together.
do you say it's actually cheaper than doing the chicken?
It's not necessarily cheaper, but it's a better project. I would call it a better project than, for starters,
Yes.
you get meat. Just like you'd get with your chickens. You get eggs just like you get with your chickens. So at that level, they're the same. They start producing after 5-6 months. At that level, again, they're still the same. The difference is when diseases hit, your ducks remain and your chickens usually die off. You lose more chickens to disease than you would to ducks, number one. And then number two, chickens are more sensitive to feed than your ducks. If the feed system changes, your chickens will sort of hold back on laying eggs. Ducks will not do that. Ducks adapt much better than chickens. That is why I'm saying, chickens, ducks are probably a better project than doing chickens.
So how much does one cost, one duck?
We sell breeding stock in bundles. We sell in bundles of 5. So we've got 1 male and 4 females for $50. That basically translates to what? To about $10 a duck for this particular breed. For that particular breed, we sell the same bundle
Yes.
for $80.
All
So that
right,
translates to
all
about
right.
$16 a duck. That's a different breed with a different story altogether.
All right,
Yeah.
all right, all right, all right. So you said you have, you said it's just, is it about they're just different colors and one breed here? Because I'm seeing.
What we've got outside, all the ducks that are walking outside that fence,
Yes.
or that are moving about outside the fence, are the
Yes.
same breed. So Muscovy breed comes in so many different colors.
All right, all right.
So you've got the whites. I actually was very deliberate about the whites. You find that you might not find any male ducks that are mature that are not white.
What?
So all my male ducks that are productive on the farm are
Yes.
white.
All
To
right.
just make sure I have more white ducks than any other color, because I just liked the color white for my ducks.
All right.
But you've got that greenish hue, like that greenish bluish hue. You've got the grays. You've got there's also a black, which
Yes.
I don't have. I'm actually looking for one.
All
I'll
right.
probably find a drake that is very black and with no other colors. You can find that as well. So yeah, same breed but just different colors is a big possibility. But yeah, all this is just Muscovy ducks with the same. With the Pekins though, they're
Yes.
just white.
It's only white. There's no other
The
color.
Pekin duck is a white duck with an
Okay.
orange or yellowish beak. That's it.
All right.
And then khaki Campbells come with a certain color. Ruins come with a certain color as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Duck farming is profitable. Is it profitable, lucrative?
Yeah, it's actually a very profitable business. The only reason why we don't have too many ducks on the farm is because we've sold most of available breeding stock, and we're actually waiting for the next lot to actually grow
All right.
and come of age. We've never had a situation where we've excess breeding stock that we're failing to sell.
All right.
But yeah, you've got options when it comes to selling ducks. You can sell breeding stock like we do,
Yeah.
or you can sell ducks for meat.
Okay.
The people who consume meat for ducks for meat, and then you can sell eggs to people who want to hatch their own eggs and start their own projects. That's another way of selling. So it's a sort of a three-tier project. Very soon we'll start converting duck manure into vermiculture, into vermicompost as well.
Oh, you're planning also to do?
Yeah, why
for the
not?
ducks?
If we've got enough duck manure to do that, I'm sure we'll do that as well. So yeah, and then we've got a growing Chinese community in the country. With that comes a lot of consumption of ducks, because they consume more ducks than chickens.
All right.
It's speculative, yes, but at some point we're going to have a lot of demand for ducks.
All right.
So yeah, I think it's lucrative. I think it's profitable, and I think it's a very good backyard project to have. And one of the reasons is they survive by just scavenging like they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's not very heavy on the pocket in terms of the quality and type of feed that you give them. It just has to be balanced.
All right, all right, all right. So, is there any challenge that you've faced in the past that you say, this time I faced this one, this time, in terms of duck farming?
The biggest challenge that we've had in terms of duck farming before was getting to the market and understanding how to then sell the ducks.
All right.
Because like I said, we started by accident, and then we found ourselves with an overwhelming population of ducks, and getting to sell them was a bit of a challenge. The challenge that we have now is around feed. We're coming off a drought, so feed sources are a bit difficult to find. So our cost of production is slightly up, but other than that, in a normal season, it's not too difficult to feed ducks.
Okay.
Then one other challenge is getting people to eat ducks.
duck.
Yeah, I think we have a training experience where we actually have to get people to generate interest in eating ducks.
All right.
I personally, because we produce broilers and we produce chickens,
Yes.
even here we don't consume as much duck as we would want.
All right.
But I think in the very near future, especially around the Peking duck, we're going to be just consuming a lot of duck for people to see and publishing maybe recipes and options, so that people get to try them out and like them.
But in terms of tastes, which one can you prefer, the duck meat or the chicken meat? Or there is a process.
Well, I'll put a distinction between 3 different breeds.
Yes.
So, or maybe 4.
All right.
I personally love broiler meat.
All right.
Broiler chicken meat. I know people talk about health reasons and also, but I enjoy my broiler. That's me. My wife loves my rodran.
All right.
She prefers that
Yes.
to my broiler because of the texture of the meat, and you know, she likes it like that.
That's
So, and then there's that duck there, the Peking duck. The Peking duck grows to mid-size, grows to 90% of its adult age in about 2 months. It grows as quickly as my broilers, almost as quickly as my broilers. So the meat is very tender.
That's true.
So if you're going to compare a roadrunner chicken to a Peking duck, it would almost be the same. You've got a lot more meat than you'd find with the chicken, with that one. And then the Muscovy is the last one on the list.
Yes.
It's not the meat, because it grows slowly. The meat is on the hard side, so it requires a bit of a process to get it kuti inyatsoibva.
Okay.
So to speak. But your Peking duck compared to a roadrunner, I would put them at the same level.
Also, you mean that one you might prefer it for meat? That one,
exactly. That is why we've actually brought them onto the farm.
All right.
Yeah. And you know, an aunt of us gave us to taste. Said, taste this duck, and then we realized, we've been missing something. And now we're starting to raise them for ourselves, and we're going to push that for meat, and then push this as breeding mothers.
All right.
So we're going to have these, because those ones will not sit on their eggs to hatch, but these ones will.
Why don't they sit?
It's just a physiological thing. Naturally, they're not broody, so they will not hatch their own eggs. You either use an incubator, or fortunately for us, we've got Muscovies. We'll use Muscovies for that. So we'll just take eggs from there and have these ones hatch. These are excellent mothers. They're excellent.
They take good care of the babies.
So we'll then use these ones. That is why we're still keeping these ones, because they're very good mothers. And then we'll have those ones which are very good layers.
Okay. So how many are they, these ones?
We've got about 200 on the farm now. 200 Muscovies and about 12 Muscovy breeders. That's what we've got. And about 100 of these, which we're just starting out. But we're scaling up. By the time we get to August, we would have scaled up into something much bigger. For all three lines, for your Peking, your Muscovies, and these ones.
So what are your words to someone who wants to start duck farming? That you say, maybe if I share this one with him, maybe you might get something.
This is my encouragement to anyone who wants to start duck farming.
Yes.
Not just duck farming, but farming in general. Start small. Think very big, but start small.
All right.
Start small, learn, read as much as you can, explore, and then find ways on your farm to save. There's so many ways that you can save. Use the resources around you to save, especially the waste on the farm. Think around, what can I use the waste that is coming off the farm to produce feed. And then the other thing is, all chickens are the same. Whether it's a duck, whether it's a roadrunner, whether it's a goose, whether it's a turkey, they all require the same in terms of a balanced diet, in terms of vaccinations, in terms of disease management. And your first line of defense is always a clean environment. Try to clean up. It usually helps to just manage disease and all other things.
That's true.
That's my encouragement. And then they just require the same balanced diet that you were taught in grade 3 is what they require. Try to balance out their diet and you won't have a problem.
All right.
Peking duck will grow to its full size in 8 weeks if it's fed properly.
All right.
These ones will grow to its adult size in 4 months.
4 months?
Yes, if they're fed properly. So the difference there is about a 2-month difference between the time that you get to go to market.
All right.
Yeah. So, and the reason why that is so important is that the meat quality that you find with Pekins then becomes better, because it grows a bit faster. The meat is a bit softer than you would find with your Muscovies. So when you're choosing a breed, it's something that is very good to consider. If you're considering a breed for meat or for breeding, it will be good.
So that one we can treat it like a chicken. That one, right?
You can actually raise
because
those
most of
like
the people
broilers.
they say you have to boil many times.
With that one, the way you cook your roadrunner is how you didn't just cook that.
All right. I think guys, you have heard. Maybe in terms of to change the meat, you can just put your chicken aside, then you taste that one. It can cook like fast the way you cook the chicken. So you can even fry it. That one.
Yeah, you can. You can put it in an oven. You can you've got
What about this one? Can you do it with this one?
You can, but it has to be a very slow process. So you can't do it with a high heat. It has to be a low heat, slow process.
All right.
And Zesa will not allow you to cook for that long.
Oh, because it will take a while.
Yeah, it takes a bit of time. It takes a bit of time.
That's true,
But at the end of the day, duck meat is very nice. It's something that is growing, something that has potential, and I think, most people would, if you've got a backyard and you've got space, just build a small little pond. You don't necessarily need a pond to do ducks.
That's true.
They're not even within a pond, but they're doing well. We haven't built